Hi everybody, this is Austin Snyder, Lauren Lonstein, and Savannah Starnes and Austin Dice, and today we will be responding to the FMD Payback attack.
Attack outline. JEC is a group of individuals that plan to attack the cattle industry under the JBS SA company located in Brazil. They will obtain the virus from a neighboring country in Colombia and transport it to Brazil, where they will infect the feedlots with a strain of foot and mouth disease. After spreading the virus using clever disguises and a slight knowledge of the Spanish language, they will conduct business with the headquarters of JBS SA. After their meetings, they will stay within the country for a few days until the virus is no longer contagious on themselves so that they do not track it back into the United States.
Prevention. There are many ways this attack can be prevented. First, will the virus survive long enough in a travel-sized lotion bottles, or will the bottles hold the disease long enough and not leak during travel? Second, they could be caught at either farm gathering and distributing the disease. Notice that you walk around their farm with free rein. It is very likely that someone will catch them during this process. Third, TSA will be very suspicious of someone carrying through multiple bottles of something like this, so they more than likely be caught in the airport. And finally, feedlots for cattle are separated, so the disease would have a very hard time spreading all over all of the farm. Very minimal negative impact if the plan succeeds.
FMD virus causes 100% mortality in animals infected, and they have clinical signs of blisters on the mouth and hooves, as well as foamy saliva and lameness. The farm employees will notice low feed intake by the cows due to the blisters that are on their mouth, as well as their lameness. They will then examine the cows for issues, and they will notice blisters in their mouth as well as on their hooves. The workers will then contact the company veterinarian and begin running serology, tissue, and PCR tests to determine the disease.
Response. The response that JBS SA will take will be the standard ICS structure. It's going to be more detailed, but that's going to be the overall structure of the response plan. The size of JEC's attack is largely related to the company that they're attacking. JBS SA is a large multinational company, and it has many routes across the world. This being said, the scope of or scale of this disease is on a larger stage. The duration of this attack will be roughly 7 to 14 days in country, and beyond, the virus will be terminated through biosecurity. As a large agricultural corporation, there are many biosecurity preventatives that defend against this kind of attack. Within the beef cattle industry, different lots of cows are separated in order to mitigate the spread of disease. Within the ICS structure, JBS finds themselves with that segregated issue. They would first lock down the Brazilian part of the company and cease and address how far back the disease has gotten into the production line. After the company is shut down, they would take cultures of the disease, figure out what the disease is, and then address it from there. Being foot and mouth disease, this is a pretty easy disease to address, and the preventative for that would be fairly simple as well. Once the area is quarantined and the infected animals are terminated, they would then closely watch the area for any further spread of the disease, and after that they would clean and disinfect the area, letting the disease slowly die off through having no contact with the host. After the area has been left off to kill the bacteria, it is ready for new cattle and will be reintroduced into the production line. Depending on the amount of cattle that the disease infects, we would estimate roughly 300 to 400 employees to get the operation back up and running. During the time, they would look at the surveillance footage and determine who or what started the disease within the company. Knowing that the disease has a 7 to 14 day timeline, they could estimate who has been in contact with the cattle, and they would see that JEC would infect the animals. Determining who caused the outbreak, they would then press charges and bring the individuals or groups to justice.
Once FMD is detected by the on-site veterinarians, a disease elimination plan will be put into place to euthanize and properly dispose of the infected animals. Common disposal methods include on-farm burial and burning. Both of these practices, however, have commonly received backlash from the public, who have concerns about the environmental and human health risks associated with the disposal. Improper burial can result in groundwater contamination, while burning puts people in the area at risk for respiratory illnesses associated with the smoke. Therefore, disposal practices must be held up to a standard in such a way that the surrounding areas will not be at risk, which could add additional costs to the disposal of the infected animals. Following detection, it is likely that the country of Brazil and the rest of South America will begin employing preventative vaccinations that were otherwise unnecessary due to the elimination of the disease prior to the outbreak brought on by JEC. This will be an additional cost to prevent future outbreaks. Due to this outbreak, JBS SA will be unable to export any of their beef products in an effort to control the spread of the disease. JBS SA will lose a great deal of revenue due to the outbreak on top of the elimination, disposal, and prevention costs. They would also be wise to implement improved biosecurity practices and employ clearance techniques so that random people cannot just walk into a feedlot to contaminate their beef. As the 2016 JBS SA had a total of 3 feedlots in the area of Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. 86% of the 40,200 bovines processed a day were located in Brazil alone. The beef sector of JBS SA alone had a net revenue in 2016 of $28.2 billion. After detection of FMD, there will need to be enough laborers hired to euthanize and dispose of the infected animals properly. If the 40,200 processed bovines were distributed evenly over the 3 feedlots, then there would be approximately 13,400 animals to be culled at each site. Enough laborers would need to be hired to perform the task quickly and efficiently to preserve the quality of life for the remaining animals. We predict that a loss of 200 to 750 million could be expected depending on the extent of the disease. Since JEC only visited one of the 3 feedlots, the loss may be on the lower end.
Based on the original attack plan and the factors we discussed above, we do not think that this attack has a high probability of occurring. Even if you were to go about this attack in a similar but different way, we still do not believe that the attack would be successful. The way JEC collects and transports the infected cow saliva does not seem very efficient to us. They did not take into account the different factors that may affect the incubation period of the disease, like the change in altitude in the airplane, the travel period, and the changes in climate. The president of the company should take this attack into consideration, even though there's a low chance of this attack successfully happening. There are many ways to prevent this attack from happening, which includes background checks on the visitors that come to the farm. All visitors must wear PPE, such as plastic booties, Tyvek suits, hairnets, gloves, etc. Visitors that have been on other infected farms must completely shower, change clothes and their shoes before entering the farm. They should also disinfect all vehicles coming on and off the farm and monitor surveillance for suspicious activity.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Here's a list of our references.